Do you or someone you know enjoy pushing someone's buttons? Well, we have the keyboard just for you. Today we look at the digital piano Yamaha CVP-701. Over 100 buttons on this thing. Let's talk about them.
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in beautiful downtown San Antonio, Texas.
I'm Patrick Marr. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, check out our other videos, sign up for notifications, like our videos, leave us comments. We appreciate your support and we'd love to interact with you. Ted, the CVP line.
Don't push my buttons, man.
Don't push my buttons. Honestly, when we were looking at this, it used to be the state of the art. Oh, look how much it can do. You know, it's almost like an organ of the times of old.
Still does a lot, but it does it what is by today's standards considered old school ways. Is you have to push a button for almost everything.
And I've talked to Yamaha about this before because it seems like the way of the future, of course, is touch screens and we control everything with our phone or with an iPad. And then when they explained why they have this option still available in the line, the CVP-701 is still a current model, even though it was released almost 10 years ago. The answer is usually very simple. It's, hey, churches and choirs, they love this because they're able to switch on the go. In the middle of a song, if you're in the accompaniment section, you can switch to a different voice, you can switch to a different configuration, all at the touch of one button. You can assign almost all of these buttons to do what you want them to do. So it's really a high-powered MIDI controller almost, but live with the sounds available at your fingertips. And when you need to switch from organ to strings and piano to a backing track to all these things, it's available very easily instead of having to menu dive, which a lot of the times on our simplified screens that we have nowadays, you menu dive a little bit. You click that, okay, that's the menu. Click sounds, okay. Go in, I'm going to click piano now.
You don't know how many sub pages you're down and how far over to the left or the right you are in this thing.
So a very practical purpose of having all these buttons and with the lights set up, it really kind of differentiates where you're clicking. But let's talk about the CVP line. It's kind of a different beast than the CLP line and really has a rich history coming from Clavinova, a Yamaha idea from the late 80s. And Ted, you were there. I was probably not even around yet.
The first Clavinovas were just the digital pianos, the CLPs. And then, you know, by time the 80s were ending, they had the sound cards, although they were, you know, 8-bit and maybe plus some then, they were starting to get organized a bit more. And by the early, you know, the late 90s and stuff, the CVPs had come along to the point to where they had developed an above and beyond replacement for the old church organ. And this is before your time, but there was a time where there were a lot of organ salesmen in the malls, and there were usually 2 organ stores in a mall or music stores, and they just played those old Baldwin fun machines, which would be a great name for this thing because it's more fun than a fun machine. But anyway, the idea was that church organists were slow to pick up into the digital piano realm because there was a church organ and then there was a grand piano usually at most churches. What happened with the Clavinova line is it kind of went right there in the middle. For churches that were having stability problems with their grand piano, that's what this was for. If they were having some kind of connection problem or auditory problem or age with their church organ, assuming it wasn't a pipe organ, if it was just like some kind of a, you know, solid state organ. So the Clavinova came in, it had great organ sounds in it, had great piano sounds in it, so it was like a very cost-efficient replacement. I can't say that enough. A cost-efficient replacement for a church organ and a church grand piano. Those 2 instruments alone right there can be $30,000, $40,000 back in that day, even more so now. And again, you've mentioned that the CVP line has moved into the 800 series, but Yamaha leaves this model because they leave it as one of the most affordable multifunctional, versatile pianos that are digital on the market. And it still has the 16-track recording studio in it. And you can swap out the instrument and not have to change the part. It has I don't know, 700 or 800 different kind of drum beats in it.
Yeah.
And each one of those has 4 stages within the beat. And then there's also an introduction. There's 3 introductions, 3 endings, and then a break. And the breaks modulate between what's in the intros and the endings, but it doesn't end. I mean, the breaks will take you from like A, B, C, and you can program all this stuff, or you can just change it on the fly.
And yeah, so that whole style section is what it's called on the left, when you're sitting at the instruments on your left side. And that whole style section, it has drum sets, but also has accompaniment in there. And I think what they call it is a style when it comes all together. And that kind of idea was born back in the early 2000s, but really kind of took the idea of the in-home organs that were
beatbox.
Yeah, they were the fun machines. They were, you hold one note down, C, F, and G. You go back and forth, and it plays the whole instrumentation. And then you have your right hand free to go and make up a melody.
Right. Now this one has, one of the first features they put on here was the automatic accompaniment. Mm-hmm. And so you can do that with 1 finger, 2 finger, or you can have it triggered to where whatever chord you make, it's going to read it and play on it.
So on the style section, I just want to say there's like over 330 styles in there. So a lot of different versatility, different styles from country music to rock and roll to dance music, all these really fun accompaniments. And we'll show some of those here when we demo it. But the style section, really, it's to make music accessible to everybody immediately.
Yeah, and it's everything from rap, hip hop, all the way down to ballroom dancing, even Viennese waltzes and stuff like that. And
so I think a lot of times people will see this and be like, oh, that's too complicated for me. But really, in the complication of it, it's so simple.
The simplicity makes it fun.
And you put a kid in front of this, they understand it in the first couple minutes. They see, oh, it does this, and then they can play along with it. I actually grew up with a CVP in my house, and it was, the early 2000s.
Yours was a button pusher?
It was a button pusher like this. Their touchscreens hadn't come out or anything, but we had one, and really what I dove into was the recording side of it.
The 16 track.
And so, I was like, okay, so this is how you record. And so I would, go record the bass section, put on the bass guitar, record bass. Then I'd go back over and do piano over, and then a drum machine. I'd play drums over it. And 16-track recording, you can just keep adding on and over and layering. And it really kind of opened my eyes of, oh, this is how recording
music
works.
Is put together,
and it kind of all starts making sense. So it's really a fun machine for children, for kids, for people who want to introduce themselves to music and music production. I feel like today with computers and things like that, there's another way to do it as well. And I feel like a lot of people gravitate that way. This is to have piano in front of you and kind of understand it on that level, which is cool. But as you move further down, the recording section is next. So style all on your left side. Here in the center right section is going to be your song control, whether you're recording or whether you want to be switching between different presets. There's a registration, so you can hit different buttons and that will transform. Oh, you saved piano and strings here. Oh, you saved this different style section over here with the guitar and the drums set up like this way. So registration is big in the churches and choirs. When I was in choir in high school, they had a CVP too. So just very popular instrument that serves a lot of utility purpose. And then as you move all the way down here, voice section, over 700 voices.
A lot of great sounds and voices.
So really kind of packed into 3 different sections and lots to offer. What would you say about the keyboard action?
The keyboard action is their old school GH3X.
Yeah.
Graded hammers from bottom to top, and it's not the latest action they have out, but it's the latest action that they put in this model. And certainly the 701 is an older model, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't update it because they didn't have any recommended changes other than to leave it alone.
Yeah, and so it comes in the price range. $41.99 is what it sells for online. The next step up in the CVP line is almost $8,000.
Well, it's an extremely powerful keyboard, and it is priced very accordingly. I mean, you get a ton of technology for that price.
So let's listen to it. Let's do a couple demos on the styles, on the voices. Let's listen, play it, and then we'll come back and talk about a couple more features.
Well, Patrick, this time here I wanted to at least get one or two, in terms of my capabilities, simple styles that I played. I avoided the piano room this time for some reason. I've demoed them before. It is one of the funnest, easiest features to use, and I don't know why I didn't demonstrate. I've done it on other videos. You can bring down your musicians and you can cancel the guitar player right away, so you have a bassist and a drummer right there.
So yeah, so the idea behind the piano room, and there's a piano button right here that I just clicked a second ago. It's no matter where you are in the entire, if you're deep in a menu somewhere, if you're playing with one of the styles, if you're lost in the recording function, no matter where you are on the unit at a certain time, if you hit that piano room button, it brings you back to the piano sound. And it basically, you know, back in the day...
Well, it literally brings you to a room. You get to pick the room, you get to pick the piano and how the lid is on there. Mm-hmm. And then if you pick the band, you can get all the styles to show up in the piano room.
Yeah, and so in the old days, when you got too lost in something, you'd always turn it off and turn it back on. And they're like, hey, why don't we just make a button for that? And they really were like, hey, if we hit the piano button, it just brings you back to where you want to be on the piano section of the Clavinova. And so just a really cool feature. So yeah, the CVP-701 connectivity is if you are somebody who wants to take full advantage of using apps with it, there are apps that work with it. Not going to be Bluetooth though. You're going to have a cable that connects to the USB to the device or USB to host if you want to use it as a MIDI controller. But really just kind of feature packed. It's one that came out again about 10 years ago, but still is considered a current model from Yamaha. Still a really good seller for churches, for institutions, and then for in-home students that are learning to play. Something that really kind of packs a lot.
It's a great value for the instrument as well too. All the versatile technology that's crammed in there.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a video of the CVP-701 versus one of the CLPs in the similar price range, kind of talk about the differences between them and which one, if you are in this price range of, you know, I want to spend a good amount on a quality instrument, why this one might be right for you, or why maybe the CLP in the similar price range might be the right choice as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We love to make you guys content and play some piano for you. We'll see you next time. This is Ted Barslew. I'm Patrick Marr with Alamo Music, and check us out online at alamomusic.com. Thanks for watching.